All right, hello everyone, and good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. Welcome to our best practices webinar, Solving Slow Internet Issues. This is one of our short webinars that show you how to use Preseem to quickly solve tactical problems that you run into from day to day. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to use Preseem to help support reps troubleshoot slow internet calls. This is going to be a short webinar, just a quick bite of Preseem goodness that I hope will help you be more effective when you're handling this type of call from day to day. First, let's look at the agenda. We're going to quickly go over a few housekeeping items, meet your presenter for today's session, that's me, and then move into the main part of the webinar where we're going to learn how to solve slow internet issues. And we'll then wrap up with some Q&A. I'd like to highlight a few tools on your screen that will be useful during today's webinar. On the right-hand side, you'll find the interactive section with the chat, Q&A, and polls. Looks like a bunch of you have already found that chat. So use the Q&A tool to submit any questions throughout the session. We'll answer as many as we can during the Q&A part at the end. The chat tool is available for you to share comments or engage with other attendees during the webinar. And we've got a poll that will pop up during the session in a little bit, and we'll encourage everyone to participate in that. At the top right of your screen, you'll see the Book Account Review button. This allows you to easily schedule a meeting with a customer success manager if you'd like to discuss anything from today's presentation in more detail. Lastly, today's webinar is being recorded. You'll receive an email within 24 hours with a link to the recording, so you could rewatch it or share it with a colleague. So hi, everyone. I'm Scot Loach. I'm the CTO and one of the co-founders here at Preseem. I spend most of my time listening to what's going on in the world of regional ISPs, what's working, what's not, and making sure our engineering team is evolving and building Preseem to help solve those problems. I've been doing this with Preseem for about 7 years or so now, and I've spent over 25 years building networking products for ISPs in various roles in my career. Today, we're going to focus on one of the most common and most frustrating support scenarios. A customer calls in and says, "My internet is slow." We'll walk through how to use Preseem to resolve this type of problem and triage this type of call quickly without the guesswork. Today's session is designed specifically for support reps, especially those on the front lines taking customer calls. But I think that anyone will probably get some value out of it. And before we dive into the content, we're going to do a quick poll. So I'd love to get a quick sense from everyone. No right or wrong answers, just to get a feel for what you typically see on your network. So if we get that poll up. Okay, so the poll question is going to be, in your experience, what is the most common cause of slow internet support calls on your network? So please take a few seconds to select the option that best fits what you see from day to day, and then we'll take a look at those results. All right, looks like we got quite a few votes. We can probably put those results up. All right, so looks like top results, RF environment issues, customers Wi-Fi, subscriber maxing out their plan. Okay, so those are interesting. We're gonna go through a few of those results today. It's interesting. Yeah, okay. Customer maxing out their plan. Yeah, those are good. Okay, so we've got a clear top three there. Okay, can we just go back to the slides? Awesome. All right, I want to start with some introductory material here, some sort of basic using Preseem that hopefully will make your life easier if you don't know this. So I want to start by talking about how to get into Preseem when you're taking a support call. There are two typical ways this is done. The first way is to link directly to Preseem from your CRM or billing system, which would typically be the starting point where you are anyway when you're taking a customer call. So many of the ISP billing systems have links to Preseem built in. So a lot of them partner with us for that. I've put a couple of examples on this slide. So at the top there, you can see Splinks. It's got a direct link to Preseem down at the bottom right there from the service page for a customer. And then at the bottom there, there's a Sonar screenshot that also has a direct link to Preseem from the network and inventory screen. So those will take you directly to Preseem, the Preseem view for that customer with a single click. So that can be a handy shortcut if you have some of those billing systems. And if your billing system or CRM tool doesn't have this, you can add it if you have the ability to do some customization. So we have a standard URL format that you can use to link to Preseem if you're able to customize your CRM. So reach out to us if that's something you're interested in doing. The second way to get to customer details in Preseem is to use the global search. Preseem always has a search bar at the top center of the app. You can enter a customer's name or a customer's ID there and search for it. And I'm going to demonstrate this in just a second with a live demo here. Okay, so hopefully that's coming up well. All right, so I'm going to just demonstrate this quickly. This is Preseem. This is just a default view when you come in. So I'm going to search for subscribers. So Heather Thompson is calling in. And this opens up two results. I've got an account and a service. This is going to be pretty typical. And what we're generally interested in when we're talking about support is the service, because that's where all the interesting bits, their service plan, linking to their CPE elements, that's all here. So I'm going to click on service. And then you can see that opens up the service view very quickly. This view shows some important information about any customer at a glance, regardless of what kind of access network they're on. So you can see that this customer has a plan with 120 megabits down, 22 megabits up. The download rate and the upload rate charts, you can also see that graphed here. And what these allow you to see at a glance is whether the customer is able to hit their plan speed. So in this case, you can see that this customer is hitting her plan speed fairly regularly. And the data usage chart, which is down a little lower, that shows that she is, generally consuming a decent amount of her internet consistently. She's 40 to 50 gigs per day of overall throughput here.
Sorry, Scott, I'm going to stop you here. You're not sharing your screen.
Okay. Good to know that worked. Oh, haha. Thank you for telling me that. Helps if I actually press the yes, share me button. Okay. Can you see that now, Sylvia?
Yeah, that looks good now. Thank you.
All right, cool. All right. Sorry for that glitch there. That was a user error. Okay. So now that you can see this is what the service view looks like. And what I did to search for her is just use the search here, click on the service, and then you're going back to this screen. So what I want to point out is this has the download rate and the upload rate for the customer. You've got these charts here which show that the actual achieved download is able to hit the plan rate. And you're going to see some examples later where that is not the case, which is sort of what you expect to see in a slow internet call. And then if you scroll down a bit, you can see the daily usage, 40 to 50 gigs there, and also the latency. So the latency chart shows the typical latency through the access network right into the customer's home to the end device being used. So this is not just the AP to CP radio latency. This goes right to the end device. So there's a lot of insight into the actual quality of experience being experienced by the customer. And we typically use the 80th percentile to represent how their how their quality of experience actually is. So in this case, this is a good quality of experience, 50 milliseconds. It's very, very stable. So that would be considered good. The other thing we're going to want to do in these workflows is take a look at the customer's CPE device. So this can be done by clicking here on the element, or it can be done by using the topology navigator at the top of the screen. So we've got her as her service. We can link to her account and the plan she's on, and we can click to her CPE radio here. In this case, it's a CPE radio because this is a wireless subscriber. So we can see some basic information about the wireless link. But the most important thing is the maximum achievable link rate. So that's these charts at the bottom here. And we can see in this case, this customer has a stable link rate around 350 megabits, well above their plan speed. So we wouldn't anticipate any network issues with this case. And then one other thing we can check from here is keep walking down the topology to the access point. And a couple of KPIs we're interested in here are the airtime utilization. So in this case, no issues here. This access point is not looking like it's going to be congested. And also the latency. So this access point overall has a pretty low latency, indicating that there's no unexpected issues. If you did have something upstream, like a backhaul that was congested, you'd see that reflected in the aggregate latency for the access point here. So I'm just going to go back to the slides. All right. So that's an introduction to the screens we're going to look at for the typical support workflow. And the rest of this webinar is going to be showing you some examples of issues you'll see when handling support calls dealing with slow internet. For example, when a customer is consistently unable to speed test to their plan speed. I'm going to be using slides with screen captures instead of doing this live, just because I had to redact customer information for these examples. So here's an example where the customer called in complaining of slow internet speed. So they can't speed test close to their 200 megabit plan speed here. And so the first thing we're going to do, as I showed, is we're going to search for this customer, or we're going to link to the service from the billing system. And we can immediately see evidence here in the service view that they're not getting close to their plan speed within the past couple of weeks. It shows up on the view here. So you can see that download rate. We've got a green line there at 200 megabits, and that yellow line that shows their peak usage over time, it's peaking out around 100 megabits, and it's typically a lot less than that. And then the latency chart's also pretty suspicious there. We're seeing some very high latency measurements, indicating that there's some bottleneck causing packets to buffer. And so the internet is feeling slow to this subscriber, and their speed tests are confirming that. So we're going to click into the element next to see if we can find a problem in the access network. Okay, the CPE radio view here shows the problem. So the link between the CPE radio and the access point is just not supporting that 200 megabits plan speed. You can see it's pretty jumpy and unstable there. It kind of goes up to 100 megabits and it goes down to 10 megabits. And that's an indication of just issues with the RF environment here. So maybe there's an interference issue, maybe there's an alignment issue, a line of sight issue, something that needs to be corrected. So this may require a service call, but it should first be investigated by the RF engineering team in case there's something that can be done without a service call. So at this point, a support rep can confidently let the customer know that there's a problem that will need to be investigated further by the engineering team, and they can escalate the ticket to RF engineering and move on with their day. So with 2 clicks through Preseem here, you understand the root cause, or at least where the ticket needs to go next, and you've got an escalation that's both a necessary escalation, you need someone from engineering to investigate, and a correct escalation, so you've escalated to the right place. So no need to bother the customer with looking at issues in their home, because this is clearly a network issue, or at least there is a network issue here, and you've gotten to the next step without annoying the customer, asking them to do things. So it's a good outcome. Here's our next example. A customer is calling in complaining of slow internet speed. So they can't speed test, again, close to the 200 megabit speed of their plan. So first we search for this customer as we did before, or link to the service from the billing system. And again, so we see a very similar looking view here. This one actually looks a little worse, I think. They're kind of peaking out around 50, 60 megabits most of the time with one or two spikes that are higher up. And the latency here it's really terrible on that bottom left chart there. It's almost always right up at that 200 milliseconds, which is the worst measurement that Preseem will give for it. It's just, that's not going to be a happy subscriber for sure. So again, let's click to the access point to see if that's, or sorry, let's click to the CPE radio element to see if we can find a problem in the access network here. So in this case, the CPE radio shows a link rate consistently above 200 megabits, which is the plan speed. So it looks like the RF environment should support this customer's plan speed. So that's not good enough to explain the slow speed results in this case. So this time, let's click through to the access point because we should see if there's an issue there, if that's going to be congested. And in this case, the AP looks pretty good. So airtime's within a reasonable limit. It goes up to almost 60% in some cases. And the key thing there is at the bottom right, the latency is very stable and it's consistently around 50 milliseconds. And you know that customer's 200 millisecond samples are part of that latency. So that's telling you that the customer is a real outlier on this AP. And so our conclusion from this should be that this is not a network issue. This is something that's isolated to this subscriber, and it's likely caused by an in-home Wi-Fi issue. And so now you can go and follow that resolution path next, troubleshooting the customer's in-home wireless network. If they have a managed router, maybe you have some tools for that. Otherwise, maybe you have kind of a line of questioning that you go down for that customer. So in this case, you were able to use Preseem to quickly get to a likely root cause, which should result in a quicker resolution, a happier customer at the end of this, and you've avoided any unnecessary truck rolls. All right, last example here that I want to walk through. So this customer has a 500 megabit symmetric plan, but as you can see from the download rate, it looks like they're only achieving about 100 megabits at peak. And again, the latency is not as high this time, but you can still see that 80 percentile line is up around 100 megabits, so not very good. So by now, you know what to do next. So we're going to click on their CPE element to look into their CPE device and see if there's a network issue here. So this is a fiber subscriber. So now we're going to be looking at the ONT view, which shows some basic fiber diagnostics. And the problem here jumps right out because it's highlighted there in yellow, and it's that their Ethernet link between the ONT and the next downstream device, which is probably their home router, is only syncing to 100 megabits. And so it's really not surprising that they're not able to achieve a 500 megabit plan speed. So knowing that, you can immediately kind of go down the next steps to a resolution path for this by probably starting with checking the home router. Okay, what make and model is it? Maybe it only supports 100 megabits. If so, then you've got kind of a path to upsell this customer to your managed router. If it is a router that supports a gig, then maybe it's a cabling issue between the home router and the ONT. So again, 2 clicks in Preseem to find the cause of the problem, and the support agent can resolve this using a standard workflow that you already have. So that's all I have today. Now, hopefully you've learned something about how to use Preseem to efficiently investigate a slow internet customer call and quickly isolate the problem. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that have come up during this. I see there's one submitted question here. So is the RF link rate available for something other than Tirana? Yes, all of our supported APs do have an RF link rate that we expose. So that's all the Cambium, Ubiquiti, MikroTik, Tirana, and several other models that we support will have that. Just looking at the other questions here. The previous search would show the actual set service level for customer in the drop-down list. I use to verify Preseem sees the correct shaping levels. That's interesting. I'm not exactly sure what you mean there, but I will take that back and respond to you privately for that one. I think it's the search results. So yes, I think you're talking about the old search results. So that's a good comment that we'll take back. You can switch back to the old search results. There's a little button at the bottom of the search that lets you get back to that. Does Preseem show Ethernet negotiation for CPE radios? Yeah, that's a good question. We don't today. That's something we'll be adding in the future. Right now, that's just for fiber. That's kind of a historical thing because it used to be pretty uncommon to need more than 100 megabits for CPE radios, but that's certainly no longer the case. So yes, we'll be adding that so that you can see when that is a problem for wireless subscribers as well. Yeah, thanks, Alex, for that feedback on the search. I think that's not the first time we've heard that, so we'll definitely take that back and look at that as an improvement. All right, well, if there's no other questions, then I think we can probably end it at this point. I hope that was useful, and I appreciate you all for giving us your time today.